May 2022, our anniversary. And we would love to hear what you have to say. So would you like to just jump in?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Brendan Winckler. I'm a voice actor here in Los Angeles, California, where I am coming to you today from. It's really great to see you all here. Let's see, some things I may have worked on that you may know me from. I've worked on things like Sword Art Online. I've worked on Fire Emblem Heroes. I've worked on Pokemon. I've worked on what else? Gosh, there's Inspector, Demon Slayer, Genshin Impact. Tons of cool stuff. I voiced Yu-Gi-Oh! And SAO Alicization, which is the third season, the latest one that just ended. I voiced Kiyoshi in Demon Slayer. I voiced Krithnaga, Sedgar, and someone else. Kemph in Fire Emblem Heroes. I voiced Trace, Bead, and Red in Pokemon Masters, Pokemon Evolutions, and Pokemon Twilight Wings, respectively. Let's see, what else have I done? Gosh, I voiced Takuya and Tomo in Genshin Impact, if you happen to know what that is. And many more that I actually can't talk about yet, which is very exciting and very cool. And I also voiced who else? Kuro and Inspector. I voiced Theo Cornaro in Record of Grand Crest War. And like I said, many more. So it's been a fun little career for me, and I'm very grateful for that being the case. How are you? By the way, how are you? I don't believe we've met. And it's a small room, so I'm like, hi everybody. I would love to hear from y'all.
Wonderful. Well, I'm Circe Miles, and I'm the moderator for this panel, and I'm just volunteering for PortCon.
Perfect.
To hear from the other two people in the room.
Oh yes, of course.
You guys want to?
Yeah, my name is Ben Wiles. Ben Wiles, Maine, and I'm with Wendy, and she lives in Old Orchard Beach, Maine, and she comes here every year.
That's awesome.
And so my brother lives in Los Angeles also, so we have that.
No, that's great. That's awesome. Well, it's great to see you guys. The connection is a little laggy, so you guys kind of cut in and out, but I hope you guys can at least hear me enough. I'm going to do my best with all that.
Same is happening with you. There's a bit of lag your feed as well.
Okay.
We'll just do the best we can.
Yes, perfect. How's the con been so far? Has it been good?
Oh, the con has been tremendous. Lots of enthusiasm, lots of people in absolutely fabulous costumes, as to be expected.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's been nonstop fun. Yeah, what do you think?
Well, this is my first time here, so it's all kind of new to me. I don't have a costume, so I'm just with her to help her with her bags and stuff.
All right.
So that's what I'm.
All right, lovely.
Yeah, for sure. I that was the same with me with my first con. When I went to my first con, it was in Virginia. I'm from Chesapeake, Virginia originally, and so my first con ever, I think, was Anime Mid-Atlantic, in 2016 or 2017, and I had never been to a con in my life. I didn't even know they existed until that year. And I was I think I was 20 or something, and I went to my first con, and I was like, this is the best thing ever.
It's so fun.
But
well,
yeah,
right now, the simulcast is going on at the same time at the con with two other really big kind of in-person, very charismatic headliner events, which is not to say you are not a headliner, Brandon.
Oh no, it's okay. Trust me. You got some really talented people.
Yes. So, but it is being, and I know that there are many people who are looking forward to hearing what you have to say. So.
Oh, thank you. Well, wow. So, from what I was told, it's being handled more like a Q&A. So, I would love to I'll let you guys know off. I guess the most common question I tend to get is, how did I kind of get started in the industry, and how did I come to be where I am now, all that sort of thing. So I guess I'll start there.
Sounds good.
Okay. Cool. So in that case, so as you know, my name's Brandon. I'm from Virginia originally. I grew up in Portsmouth, Virginia, which is right next to the beach, right next to Virginia Beach. And from there, I basically, just kind of I never had plans to be an actor. I was always a big performer, if that makes sense. I was a goofball. But I was never planning to be an actor of any kind. It never really interested me. I was always a big fan of cartoons and video games and all these things that I was super into. I just enjoyed doing it for fun. Me and my friends would just stay up nights on end just playing video games and stuff, and it was a great time. And I had always been a fan of voice actors and what they did, but I never wanted to be one myself. So when I graduated high school, I wanted to get into music because I had been performing for my, I think it was for my local church at the time. And, hold on, give me 1 second. Oops. All right, sorry, I am back. That was strange. Anyway, so as I was saying, I was doing I was performing for my local church and things like that, and I basically wanted to really get into music, so I went to college for music production, and I ended up being really bad at it. But I had all this studio equipment that I was like, oh, I want to use this and I don't want it to all go to waste. So I had this microphone and a preamp and all this other stuff that I was never using in my home. And I like to call it it was during the anime renaissance, I like to call it. It's when Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood came out. It was when Soul Eater was out there. The Devil is a Part-Timer, all those three. I was like, oh, I love these shows so much. But yeah, Death Note and all that stuff. It was kind of during that big resurgence of anime in Western media. I want to say it was when people started to really pay attention, and I was certainly paying attention, and I noticed the dubs were impeccable. They still are impeccable, but it felt different. They weren't as rushed, I feel like. But so that's what kind of got me into the thought of, oh, voiceover is a thing. I've never really considered doing it before. And so I still had all this studio equipment. And when I ended up having nothing to do, I would just try recording myself every once in a while, and eventually that led into me watching anime. And in watching anime, I experienced that dubs were a thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, these people get paid to do this. And so I started finding these voice acting sites just to kind of do it as a hobby. Again, I still had no plans on ever going pro or ever doing it. It was just one of those things I did for fun to kind of fill the time in between classes and things like that. And so I ended up doing fan dubs, things that would never, ever see the light of day. And just really just enjoying voice acting for what it was, which was performing and having fun. And I was surrounded by people that wanted to be in the industry, and they were all very determined and very talented, too. So it was a little intimidating too. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just doing this for fun. People please, but no. So I quit for a few years, and I was like, okay, I'm probably not going to pursue this any further. We'll see where life takes us. And I ended up getting a job as a flight attendant out over in New York City. Yeah, for United Airlines. And my mom was like, hey, so, I know that you like doing voiceover and you're going to be in a major market. Like, why don't you try that out sometime seriously? And I had never taken an acting class in my life. So I was like, I don't know. These people are really in it. You know what I mean? Like these people are like really good. So I just started by flying. I was like, I'll ignore the voiceover thing. And then during one of my trips back home, my parent and my mom was like, hey, I have your microphone and stuff. Do you want to take it? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take it. So I took it back to New York with me, and I plugged everything in, and I was like, let's see what happens. So I did the one thing you're never supposed to do in the voiceover sphere, and that is make a demo in one night and then send it out to a bunch of different studios all across New York. And I got stupid lucky, and I ended up getting some auditions from that, and ended up booking something with Marvel called Marvel Avengers Academy, and I booked the Green Goblin, and that was a lot of fun. It was my first taste at the professional world and like what that means, and performing in that context. And I was like, wow, this is amazing, this is so fun. And so I started auditioning all across town, but I didn't have the acting experience, so I wasn't very good. Like I was good enough to get in the door, I wasn't good enough to stay in the door, you know what I mean? So I started taking acting classes, and I would just supplement that with flying. So as far as I know, I've been to like all 50 states. I've been all across the world. I've been to like Munich, Zurich, Geneva, Japan, China, like you name it. I've probably been there. And I think one of the best acting things I ever learned was just to watch other people and to learn, how people from all different types of walks of life, act and portray themselves and, really hold themselves. And so I came back with that knowledge, and I was taking classes, and I started booking more, and people started giving me more chances. And the really big thing for me was eventually I got to audition for Pokemon, the series. It was my first anime audition ever. It was crazy. It was right in the middle of the heart of New York, like right next to Times Square. It was really cool. And I ended up going in, and Lisa, she's the director for Pokemon. She was really sweet, really great, and she was like, yeah, you're awesome. I may not have a part for you now, but like, you just keep doing what you're doing and you'll hit it eventually. And so I took that really to heart. And so anime kind of became like the main new focus. I was like, oh man, I really want to be in this industry. I really want to like be successful here. And so but in New York, the problem was everything was leaving New York. So no animation in New York. It was all like commercials and English as a second language books, and like, hey, no shade to anyone who does those books or commercials or anything. They pay great, and the people that work on them are amazing. But it wasn't my main focus. I really wanted to get into animation. So I had a friend who was moving out to Los Angeles, and I was like, just on a whim, I was like, hey, do you need a roommate? Like, that'd be really cool. Like, if I could like get out there. So I ended up switching bases from Newark, New Jersey, New York to San Francisco, California. And I ended up doing a cross country trip, which was crazy and exciting and terrifying and all the other adjectives you can think of. And it was so fun. then I was in a whole new world, and it's crazy because I started sending out my demo there, and the first thing I ever booked out here was a game called Ace Combat 7, and that was like 5 years ago. That's 5 years ago. And then out of nowhere, I started booking lead roles and, getting really involved in the industry out here. And just now it's like I'm working all the time, and it's amazing. And I'm really, really grateful for all that. So that's the origin story. I finally finished the origin. It's like when you play a 2-hour game and then you finally reach the title scene, the title sequence, you know what I'm talking about?
And there we are. Wow.
But
Wow, that's quite an origin story. So if I correctly, you did not come into this industry single-minded, trained to be an actor. You came into it as someone who loved the form and started doing. And then you said you got stupid lucky, and so here you are 5 years later with how many credits to your so far?
Okay, so I know for a fact I have way more than IMDb says, but according to IMDb, it's like 70 something. I want to 70 or 69 or 60 something. Like, yeah, it's somewhere around that number. But like there are tons of things that I've like gone uncredited on, like, tons of like games and stuff like that were just tons of anime too. I think I've worked on every funny enough, I think I've worked on almost every Funimation show that's come out in the last like 2 years since the pandemic because of
you're part of their regular stable.
Yeah, which is cool,
Yeah.
and I get to work on that. And since Crunchyroll, I like to say they like ate Funimation. They have been, solely based out of Texas. So since then, hold on, I'm gonna fix my camera. All right, yeah, since then, we haven't done too much for them, which is fine. Like it's just, it's business. It's the acting game. Things are gonna move, things are gonna change, and hopefully in the future we'll get will be part of much more. So I'm super excited about the future, especially knowing what I've worked on currently. And we have season 2s and season 3s of everything. We have Welcome to Demon School Irma coming up. I play lead in that. I play who else? Oh, Beyblade. We just wrapped Beyblade. We're all done forever on Beyblade. I played that character for like 5 years, which is crazy. I think it's the longest running character that I've ever played, and it was crazy to finally wrap that one up. But yeah, so I got stupid lucky because I had never taken acting classes. I'd never been on a stage. I had only sang in front of people. And that was about it. Like I had no plans on like going pro with this. And it wasn't until I was out here and I had the actual resources, from being successful and from the things that I had been doing and, the work that I did do, basically any money that I made from acting went back into acting classes. So like I've trained with Bob Bergen, the voice of Porky Pig. I've trained with Donna Grillo. She was the casting director for SpongeBob and Invader Zim, like way more people. I've worked with Julie Madalena, which she directed Shield Hero. I've worked with Tony Oliver. He's Lupin the Third, all that stuff. And just getting to learn from as many people as possible is like the best way that you can see yourself, being really successful in this field, in my opinion. Because like your talent only goes so far as you're willing to take it, like as you're willing to put into it. So that's why I try to take everything that I get and put it back in to the thing. And into the thing, wow, into acting, because you learn so much, and it's such an experience to get to actually be a part of that. So I'm really grateful to be out here and working on people's favorite shows and stuff like that, even if it's a small role, because the most important thing that you have to remember is that someone out there regardless of the part you play, you know, this is someone's favorite show somewhere. So you need to treat it with the respect that it deserves. You know what I mean? So like, I'll meet some people that are like, I only did bits or Walla or this or that. And I'm like, that's awesome. Good. Let's keep that up, you know, because eventually, like, you know, eventually that won't always be the case. And then on top of that, like, you owe it to yourself and to fans, you know, to treat it with respect, because, you know, you could not be working at all.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a question for you about you both video games and anime. Is there a difference approach or kind of like your mental preparation for doing those two different voice acting?
Yeah, so anime and video games tend to be very different in how they're handled. Anime, we dub to picture, so we'll get the Japanese animation and there will be nothing, you know, set in the track as far as English goes. Same thing with video games, but the trick with anime tends to be you have to be really focused. You have to be willing to match those flaps and still give a compelling and believable performance, which is not always easy, because sometimes the writing can suffer because we have, you know, the English language, we have to really make it, localization can just be a hassle sometimes. So sometimes things get lost in translation, or, oh, we can only put so many words into the sentence because of the flaps. And so sometimes things will be very unnatural sounding, you know, but it's your job as a dubbing actor to really make that believable and make it stand out and really still touch like whoever's listening to it. Video games tend to be a lot more chill, which I love. Video games, I get to, you can improv, you can add sounds, you can, you're typically not stuck with the constraints that anime will give you as far as timing and things like that, you know, because with anime, you have a certain amount of time to get things out. Video games, a lot of the time you have all the time in the world, and you can make a line as long or as short or as complicated or subtle or whatever as you want, you know. So like for Genshin Impact, for example, we don't have to match Japanese or Chinese. So we get the opportunity to just you know, take our time with it, really chew on the emotions of each line. And I think video games tend to come out with a much more grounded and believable performance than a lot of anime does because of that, unless the anime is really, really well written. Because if it's a poorly written show with poorly translated dialogue, then people are gonna watch that dub and they're gonna be like, "Oh, that doesn't sound right." Yeah. So I tend to be much more relaxed when it comes to video games, and my approach for them tends to be the same. With video games and anime, you go into the booth, you have no idea what you're doing for the day, and you kind of get everything told to you in a brief, like 5-minute blurb, and the director's like, "All right, here's who you're playing. You're playing the trash guy on Melrose Street, and he's gonna be a younger sounding character. He's about 22. All right, go for it." You know, and then with anime, it's like, "All right, so you're gonna be doing bits for us today. You're in a casino and you're talking about, you know, players cards or whatever." Or like with Yu-Gi-Oh, for example, it's like, "All right, here's your character. Here's his entire story. Go." You know, so it really just depends on what you're brought in for. You know, other things like prelay, things like that, they tend to be much more detailed. But same thing, pretty much. You just go in, you have to be prepared to do anything once you enter that booth. And it's like the ultimate improv game, I like to say. So, but great question. I like that.
Do you have any questions you'd like to ask?
Do you have any jobs that you turned down?
Jobs that I've turned down. Yes. I don't turn down many jobs. But I definitely have in the past, whether or not it's been because of content related issues, or well, not really content. Like if there's weird content, normally I'll just go by a different name or something. But I've definitely turned down jobs because of pay. Pay tends to be an issue when it comes to acting because, there's this idea that, oh, actors are desperate. Like they'll work for anything as long as they get in front of the camera or the microphone or whatever. We can get them to do whatever. Like I had to come down on a client because they were trying to pay me $28 for like a video game. And I was like, no, because it was really funny because they were like, we want you to use this voice. And they sent me a clip from Final Fantasy Brave Exvius where I voiced like a central like plot character, or a character that's integral to the central plot. And I'm like, you do realize the reference that you just sent me, right? Like not to be rude, but just to give you an idea of the rates of voiceover, for video games they tend to pay 250 2-hour minimum. So you could go in for anything in the world, right? And you'd end up getting 500. I could go in and do like 3 lines, and get 500. Now this client in particular was, they were overseas and like they didn't understand. So that's why I was just like a gentle like, hey, so I appreciate the fact that you like thought of me, but I'm gonna have to turn this down unless you can do this or do something better than that amount. And you as an actor have power. If they really want you, they'll like be like, okay, yeah, let's work something out. And I was able to work something out with that client, which was really cool. Now let's see, I'm trying to think any other like, oh right, so with anime, the rates for anime tend to be 75 an hour, 2-hour minimum. Now these days we're pushing for 125 2-hour minimum just because of how crazy expensive living is here in California. So
can you repeat those numbers you had cut out and we missed the numbers?
Oh, okay, sure. So video games, 250 2-hour minimum. All right, and anime, hold on. Anime is 75 2-hour minimum, but we're pushing for 125 2-hour minimum because of how crazy expensive living in California and things like that are. And I like to say every hour you work in voiceover, that's 1 paid minute. Like so say because you have to go so long without jobs, you know what I mean? So that means anytime you're searching for work or making connections or sending an email, that's like every hour you spend doing that is like 1 paid minute.
Yeah. Voice
acting and acting in general is doing work for work that might pay. So that's the real job. Auditioning. Once you're in the booth, that's when you can kind of relax and be like, oh, I'm working. But yeah, good question. I like that.
Yeah. Do you have an agent?
Yes, I do. I've been with several agents during my time. So my first agent was an agent called AB2. They're kind of small and boutique, but they kind of like send you everything. My second one was one here in LA called Commercial Talent. And they were really great. They sent me a lot of stuff, but I wasn't booking with them, so it was like, I want to go somewhere else. Ended up going to CESD, which is like the biggest question mark agency in LA, which is awesome. You know, they're great. I worked with them for a little bit, but I was not union at the time, so I was not getting any great opportunities. So I ended up switching over to the second biggest agency, but very small, very boutique, and I'm still with them today because they're amazing, is AVO Talent here in LA. And typically, you don't need an agent to get voiceover work. I didn't have one when I started. It was all about like doing my research, making connections, you know, especially in this like age of remote recording. You know, you could be anywhere now, you know, and we're doing this right now. You know, you could reach out to anyone and be like, hey, so I have my proper, you know, stuff in order. I've got my demos, I've got my talents, and, you know, I'm ready to work, you know, and you could probably audition for someone. You know, you just have to do your research, find out who's doing the work, then reach out to them. You know, that's what I did. I ended up, when I got here, I just did a bunch of research, and it was like, all right, I need to contact these studios and, you know, just introduce myself and be like, hey, I'm in town, or, you know, hey, I'm acting from here, you know, I've got a home record set up and all this stuff, and I think I'd be really good for whatever you got in mind. And you know, they give you chances, and I think I've worked with almost every studio in LA, outside of the realm of an agent's or agency, you know. So it's definitely possible to work without an agent, and you don't necessarily need one. But there does come a point where it's like, oh, well, I don't want to work on these type of projects anymore. I want to work on like AAA projects. I want to work on like the latest Final Fantasy VII remake. I want to work on, you know, I want to work on, I don't know, like the Halloween video game, you know, Halloween horror movie video game, you know, or whatever. And like those are the type of things that are handled through agents, you know, like, oh, I want to work on Skyrim, or oh, I want to work on Fallout, or whatever, you know, or like a cartoon for Cartoon Network, you know. Those are the type of things that are actually handled through a lot of agencies. So those would be the type of projects that you want to, you know, get in touch with, but an agent for. But as far as video games and smaller things like that, like Pokemon, I got without an agent. You know, I got Sword Art without an agent. I got you know, Theo Cornaro, Record of Grand Crest 4 without an agent. You know, basically all my lead roles were not through an agency. You know, it was through my own like connections and like reaching out and being like, hey, I'm ready, you know, send me the stuff. And they were nice enough to do that. So yeah.
So what's the most challenging thing about being a voice actor compared to, like, say, a stage actor? Or and then what's kind of like the best thing about it? So what's the biggest challenge? What's the biggest?
Okay. Yeah. So the biggest challenge, to be honest, I've done on-set work, and those are really tough. 12-hour days, really exhausting, hot weather, like, you know, you never know when they're going to use you. And so there's a point where you're just like, oh God, do I like keep this up? Like, it's hard, and you have to constantly audition. You have to watch how you dress and things like that. And the best part about being a voiceover actor, I think, to me, as far as, you know, you compare it to, you know, the other stuff in the industry, is that I don't have to care about how I look. You know, it's all about my instrument, my throat, you know, making sure that I'm keeping myself healthy and, you know, ready to work, you know. With on-camera acting, you have to watch your physique. You have to, you know, you're normally constrained to a single like role type, you know. With voiceover, I get to be anyone that I want to be, and that's like the coolest thing. But yeah, I think what else? I want to say the most challenging thing about voiceover is making your connections, because it's a very tight-knit circle, and it tends to be very hard to access the inner circle, if you want to call it that. I know even now I don't get the same auditions as the rest of my peers do, because I just haven't been around a long time. People care about certain roles more than other ones, and it's just the nature of the beast. But it doesn't mean that it isn't rewarding. It just means that you have different challenges. With on camera, I feel like it's a lot about who you know and things like that, and it's the same thing with voiceover. So I would say the most challenging thing about both, so starting with voiceover, is just getting it in. And then with film, it's probably just like always having to worry about what you look like. And then the best part about voiceover is you don't have to worry about what you look like. Like, you could be anything you want to be as long as you got the chops. And the most and the best thing about on camera acting is probably just the fact you get to act with someone else, because a lot of the time in voiceover, you're not with your castmates. So you get a more natural reaction, I feel like, more natural acting experience through on camera and film and theater and all that stuff. So
I'm curious about like you with such big name titles like Genshin Impact and Slayer and Pokemon. You're in like probably like hundreds of millions of homes, providing the translation from either Chinese or Japanese and Chinese into English. And I just wonder what it's like, kind of like this cultural ambassador, that makes art forms accessible to English speakers. What is that like?
It's really an honor, because I do feel like there's a point where I want to say, like, there's no one way to, I'm trying to figure out how to word it. It's like, it's an honor because, art is art no matter what language, you see it or hear it in, it's like when you listen to foreign songs, for example, there's a reason why we connect with a lot of Japanese anime openings. We don't need them translated because the emotion is there. And, it's an honor for me to get to just be another form of accessibility to people who may not be able to, read subtitles or, connect with the Japanese language in a way that feels comfortable to them. It's really an honor for me to get to play these characters because, there are some amazing stories out there and you get to be a part of that. And, I've been on public television, which is crazy. I never thought I'd say that in my life, but I've been on television. I've been on Disney XD, in Beyblade Burst. I've been on Toonami, I think 3 or 4 times now, which is crazy. I grew up watching Toonami, and like I was hugely into that. And I was in Demon Slayer, I was in Sword Art, and I was in Fena Pirate Princess as the twins. And it's like, it's amazing because I know how much these shows meant to me growing up, and knowing that somebody else is having that same experience. And I see it through my fan interactions, like online and stuff, like every time something goes on Toonami or, whatever the case might be. And it's an honor. It really is, because you get to bring something that has not been experienced in the English language to homes and to people, and you get to connect emotionally with them, and you never realize how many emotions and how much a fan or someone who's watched the show feels until you meet them. Like, I'll go to cons and people will come up to me and be like, hey, Yu-Gi-Oh, like, I remember this person, like, was like, hey, look, like, you're the reason, like, your performance in particular made me connect with this character, and that character is why I'm still here. And it's like one of those things where it's an honor, and you can't really like describe it any better than that. You know what I mean? So I'm just always honored. So
Is there are there any particular characters who you've really resonated with and just really Like which ones in particular stand out as ones you really love to perform?
So I have gotta fix the camera. Okay, yeah. So Yu-Gi-Oh! From Sword Art Online was huge for me because I was going through this period of like, oh, should I really be acting? You know, should I really be here? Should I really be like doing these things? And he was kind of going through the same emotions, right? And throughout his journey, I just saw so much of myself in that character, and like really, it was an honor to play Yu-Gi-Oh because I did a lot of growing with Yu-Gi-Oh, and so that's a standout for me. I think another one is I'm trying to see if I have the pin up there. Oh, I do, but I'll check. Hold on, let's see if I can grab him. Hold on. Do. Come here, you. Haha. All right, zoom back in here. Yep, Zed from Disgaea 6. He's my boy. Just because he's so much fun to play. Because you know, he's loud, he's boisterous, and he's always gonna tear stuff apart. You know, that stuff. And it's crazy because, you know, back to Yu-Gi-Oh, like Yu-Gi-Oh was also a huge like character for me because when I had started voiceover, I was not very good at like enunciating and you know, speaking properly. I'll say, you know, I suffer from pretty bad dyslexia, and you know, it makes reading kind of hard, you know, and you know, it really challenged me to, you know, like figure out how to overcome my issues. And I remember the director, Alex Von David, amazing director, amazing person. He was like, hey man, so I don't know what's going on, because we'd spend like an hour on like 3 lines in that show. Like it was bad. It was bad. Just because I couldn't like pronounce the words or like whatever the case might be. And he was like, hey man, you're the only one who can play this character. So I don't know what's going on, but you need to like figure it out. And so I like ended up just working really hard and like doing speech therapy stuff that I could find online, because I didn't have the money for you know, actual speech therapy, you know, and ended up going in like 2 weeks later from a break, and like we did another session, and it was like night and day. And he came into the booth and he was like, hey Brandon, come here. And I was like, yeah, oh gosh, he's gonna yell at me again. I'm like not ready to like, you know, handle this. And he just hugs me. And he's like, keep whatever you're doing up. Like you're doing amazing. And like for real, like that was like, because a lot of the time I'm one of those actors that's like, oh, I don't deserve to be here. I never even planned on being an actor and blah 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 blah. And you know, it was just, you know, one of those motivating things that I needed, and it helped me, you know, focus on my career from then on out. And you know, now it's been, I think, 3 years since SAO, and just it's still with us. I'm going next week to Anime Expo to, you know, be on a panel with the rest of the cast, and like it's just been such a like huge thing for me. So Yu-Gi-Oh is probably the biggest. And all the others have wonderful memories attached, but that's like something that I will hold on to forever. People may not always like SAO because it's SAO, but you know, it's like I don't care. It's that character was so special to me. So, you know, yeah.
Yeah.
If you weren't doing this, what would you do?
What was that? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
If you did this work, what kind of work would you do? Yeah.
What kind of work would I do if it was like normal work?
Yeah, I guess so.
If for some reason you couldn't do this anymore, what kind of work would you do? You could not do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would go back to flying. I love travel. I always have, always will. I was a flight attendant for like 3 years, and I got to see the entire world. I got to see the entire gosh diddly darn world in like a period of 3 years, and that was huge to me because it's like no, it's just a beautiful world out there, and I got paid to just go and help people and serve people, and I've always been that type of person. I don't mind like bending over backwards for someone, or helping someone out if they need it. It's like I'm always going to be a fan of flying. And honestly, if voiceover wasn't so crazy and so unpredictable, then I would absolutely, do flying again. So I would go back to United, or, American, or I don't know, some other airline, and, just fly for the rest of my life.
Wow. Wow. Sounds like a charmed life so far.
Yeah, I've been really blessed. I've been really, really lucky. So
wonderful. Well, do you have any closing comments for us here in the last few minutes of our session?
Sure. Well, guys, I just want to say thank you for even, having me virtually. Like, it's been a real, like, awesome experience, like, talking to people, and I'm hoping that I can see you guys out in person sometime soon, because my goodness, like, I love my East Coast, fam out there. So, I love going back to the East Coast whenever I can. But yeah, no, it was great talking to you guys. And, trying to think, is there anything like exciting coming out, or am I doing anything right now? Nothing I can talk about, sadly. I'm thinking about it. Yeah, it's been crazy. This year has been like it's been the year of things that like have been silently happening in the background. You're like, oh man, I want to talk about this thing, but they've got snipers on me and I can't.
Oh, I can't say a word.
Hey, they're serious about them NDAs, but yeah, I guess Inspector season 2 is coming out soon, so keep an eye out for that.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Brandon Winckler, for taking the time on this beautiful Friday evening to hang out with us and tell us about your passion and your art and your charmed life. It sounds absolutely wonderful, this like 4 to 5 year ascent that you've had. And I look forward to hearing more of your performances in the future.
Thank you. It was so great meeting all of you guys. And take it easy, stay safe, and enjoy your night.
All right, super. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Bye.